Now, we were talking just a little bit before the actual interview started about the spoken word piece that you do as well. Give me some information about that.
Yeah, a couple of days ago, I sat down literally. It was on Saturday and wrote a piece in a few hours. And that night, I went to a spoken word open mic and shared it. And I really was happy and so honored with the response, and it's getting some pretty good traction on social media. I'm going to perform it tonight in New York City. And the piece is called Hunting Season. And I was thinking, I was in Mississippi for a speaking engagement last week. And as I was driving through, people reminded me, I used to live in Mississippi, they said, remember the deer on the side of the road, and you got to be careful, this is deer season. And I went online to look up information, and I found out we're in the midst of hunting season. And the website for the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks has pages of information about where you can hunt and regulations. And I really started thinking about that it's been hunting season on the lives of black and brown men for a long time, and where are the regulations to protect them? So we know that right now, with all the situations that have taken place, from Trayvon Martin to Mike Brown to Eric Garner, so the list goes on, of young men of color in particular who feel like it's hunting season on their lives and on their souls. And where are we going to stand up and protect them, create regulations to ensure their vitality? And so it's a piece that not only speaks about the kind of issues that are taking place, but also really challenges us to be hunters in the community of the greatness of young people, hunters and gatherers for peace and for mentorship, and hunters and gatherers of opportunities for them. So it really is to speak about the hunting that happens to, in so many ways, put young men of color in danger, but how we need to be positive hunters. We have to have our own NRA, the National Right to Achieve, so that every young black male, every young Latino male, and every male in general knows that they are amazing. They're not at risk. They're at success. And we need to look at them positively and provide opportunities for them to maximize their greatness and to surround them with the loving and compassionate arms of a community that believes and trusts them.
Now, Dr. Greenfield, there's some young man, some young woman who's listening to this broadcast right now as we speak, who may feel as if though that they're at the end, or who may feel as if though what I see on television or what I listen to on the radio, or even what I've read in books, is not for me because the life that I'm living is all that there is. What can you say to them right now to assist them in making not the 360, but making the 180 to doing something different in their life right now?
I think that's a really powerful point, and I appreciate you raising that. Sometimes we get to believe. People say, well, that's just not me. Like someone says, you want to try this new, go to the concert of the orchestra, or to try new food. That's just not me. That's not what I do. And I remind them, the babies don't just say to their mothers, I just don't walk. That's not me. Right? Just because you haven't done it yet doesn't mean it can't be you. I remember hearing a friend of mine who was a youth worker in New York City, and he went up to some young people and said, hey, we're going to go play squash today. And the kids were like, we don't do that. People like us don't play squash. That's for the rich people. He said, well, just give it a shot. Fast forward 3 years later, the kid was city champion at squash. True story. So that sometimes we believe that's not me. It's just not who you are right now. It doesn't mean it's not who you can't be. When people say, I don't know, I always say, how about you say, I'm working on learning? Because I don't know just puts you in a fixed state of lack of knowledge as opposed to working towards it. So someone right now listening saying, I'm caught up in the street life, or I'm caught up, or I just don't think there's anything else for me. I don't believe that's why you were put on this earth. If you look inside of yourself, you have amazing talents. You know that you deserve to have better in life if you've been hurt and abused, and it's possible. Take the word impossible, break it up. It just says I'm possible. And if we start with the idea that we can, to take a risk and find people who will encourage and support your dreams, and just go for it. Go for it. You don't have to have a life that you don't want to have, and you don't deserve that. So people, just the idea of saying, I don't have to do what I've always done. I can be different. I can be challenged. And just know that I'll give all my contact information. Anybody listening right now needs someone to talk to, they want to just cry, scream, yell, whatever they need, or just a little encouragement, mentorship, I got you. And that's my word.
Awesome. Awesome. Dr. Greenfield, can you give us just a little bit of your story? Because we see you where you are now and what you're doing and speaking, and I think that's just awesome. I think that's just awesomely wonderful to be where you are. However, how did you start on this particular path?
Sure. I actually started out wanting to be a sports announcer. So all my years growing up, I'd be like, here comes Mom with the burgers, right? I mean, I would announce anything on radio and TV, and went to college to do it. And then I ended up couldn't find a job after my freshman year of college. I did a little bit of telemarketing. I mean, I did all these little crappy summer jobs. And then I found there was a summer camp that was looking for counselors. And I said, well, why not? Let's just try it. And I fell in love with the idea of the power of education, of my ability to hopefully help people to empower themselves for their greatness. And that transformed my life. I ended up being a youth worker there in Chicago. I ran a number of youth programs on the south and west sides, and some schools on the northwest side. Henry Horner Homes back in the day, had the office out of there. So, I really got excited about what we could do to help people find their own brilliance and their own greatness. Then decided to go teach college, because a lot of the young people that I was working with, I felt like we did a great job in our program, but we sent them, unfortunately, off to colleges that weren't understanding of their needs, right? Who didn't have cultural competence in their repertoire. They didn't appreciate kids coming from inner city Chicago and looked down on them. And those kids came back, and we weren't as successful in helping them as we could have been. So I said, why don't I go to a college and teach at a college and see if I can help transform the culture that was there to build more inclusion. Taught in Seattle for 8 years, went down to Raleigh, taught a number of schools in Raleigh, moved down to Mississippi for 3 years as the chief diversity officer at Alcorn State, an historically black college in Mississippi, and now I'm doing this full time. But I've been through lots of challenges. I will not, and again, I speak about it, whether it's in the book or anything else. I don't tell anybody that I just put smiley faces on my knees and everything's all right. I make it very clear that those moments that I felt like I was maybe about to crash and burn, right? But I realized I could crash and learn from it. And that those were chances for me to gain wisdom and experience. Some of the best things that ever can happen to you are some of the worst things that happen to you. Because it can strengthen you, it can enlighten you, it can motivate you, it can push you. You have the power. And so I went through a time when I was in my early 20s where I was depressed, where I didn't know what to do. I was struggling to find my full identity. And luckily, I had a support system, family and friends who loved me and believed in me. And I had to put myself in a position so that I could capitalize on what it is that I thought my life was supposed to be about. So I know firsthand. I lost my father 7 years ago, watched him take his last breath. I've been through the pain of losing friends. I've been through a lot of those situations. But that's what inspires me to keep going, because I've got to win. I got to win for me. I got to win for my son. I got to win for my dad. I got to win for anybody out there who needs to have an example that it's possible. And I'm real. Anybody who I mentor, they know. I tell the good, the bad, the ugly. They'll know everything about me. I have nothing to hide, because within our true self, our true honesty, if you know that I've been through it, maybe you'll want to talk to me about what you've been through. And then allows us the context for healing and change.
Awesome. Thank you so very much for sharing, because your story helps someone else who's listening to know that they can make it, they can do it, simply because they hear of your testimony that you've done it, that you've made it. So I appreciate that so very much. Even though you've already done it, can you do this for me? Can you give us some closing words? Oh,
absolutely. Again, I just want to thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the work that you do to focus on greatness, to focus on community challenges. For that young person who you've talked about several times who's not sure. The word crisis in Japanese, the characters they have, there's two different characters for that one word, and one is danger, and the other is opportunity. That every crisis we go through gives us certainly a dangerous situation, but an opportunity for change. You deserve the best. You can be the best, and you are the best, because you're here on this earth. And whatever I can do. And again, I can be reached my website, DerrickGreenfield.com, on Twitter, Instagram, Professor DG, Facebook, Derrick Greenfield. Promise you, if you reach out, promise that I'll respond, and however I can be of support. I just know you're not alone. But let's find our greatness. Let's capitalize on this moment of excellence. And again, just know today is the first day of the rest and best of your life.
Dr. Derrick Greenfield, you are awesome, man. I really appreciate you. You just don't know. I thank you for your work. I thank you for your essence, for your spirit, and I wish you well in your endeavors.
Same back at you. Anytime I can be of continued support and assistance, holler at me anytime.
I'm going to hold you to that.
You know it.
All right. Thanks a lot, Dr. Greenfield. Take care now.
Got it.